Hello everyone, thanks for joining in. I am Shubha Kankaria and welcome to episode 11 of Daastan-E-Raahi. It is a travel talk where we get to know about amazing places through wonderful stories of various travelers. So our today's guest is a financial advisor, writer and a backpacker. He intends to experience unexplored paths and uncharted territories. One of such paths took him to the most misunderstood country of the world, Iran. Despite of having all the negativity around, he took a leap of faith and traveled to this country. He says Iran felt like a modern soul trapped in an ancient body. I am quite excited to know how is Iran like. So guys, without any further delay, let's get on board Vaibhav Bhosle. Hi
Hi Shubha.
Vaibhav.
Hi Shubha, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good too.
Okay, Vaibhav. So to begin with our talk, tell us how traveling started for you.
So basically, I went to Goa with a friend. That is how it started, and we stayed in a hostel. It's a backpacker hostel in Goa, somewhere in the north of Goa. That time
Yeah.
we met a lot of solo backpackers, and I realized that this is a concept. I'd heard about it, but I had not met any solo backpacker till then. And when I interacted with those people who were staying, I met a lot of people from various other countries, from Europe, from South America, from US, from Australia. So and then I got to know. So basically, that is how the concept was introduced to me. That this is how it works. That you go and stay in hostels. That is how it started.
And so did you go on any solo travels, like after knowing about this backpacking
Yeah,
concept?
yes. So I think it's the same year or the next year. I went to Himachal Pradesh. I went to Dharamshala. That was my first ever solo backpacking trip in my entire life. I was 27 that time, so that was my first
Okay.
solo backpacking experience.
Okay. And so you did only domestic travel, or was there any
Yeah.
international solo
So
travel also involved?
yeah. So basically, I after that I went to Thailand. Bangkok is a very famous for young solo backpackers, especially in the age range of 18 to 26, 27, that range. So that time I went to Thailand, and one of the major reasons was because it's very close to India. So I just thought, why not explore? Go to Thailand. It's very close by, and it was my first solo backpacking experience. So I thought this is the easiest country to travel to. So why not go over there? And I just went there for for a week. It just came out of nowhere. I had a leave. I put a leave of 1 week, and I didn't have any plan. So that is how
Okay.
I usually travel.
Like random plans
Yeah, very
without
random
much thought.
plans. Yeah. Very random plans.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so coming to Iran, was that also a random plan, or you actually planned your trip to Iran?
Iran couldn't have been very random as such, because there are a lot of things you need to look at when you're traveling
Hmm.
to a country like Iran, which is very unexplored. You don't get a lot of blogs about it, lot of logs about it. Very less info is available online. There are few bloggers, but it's not widely traveled country. So, but what I did was, my first point of research was to go through any vlogs which are there. So I came across this vlog of Nomadic Indian, where he traveled in
Okay.
Iran. He actually is a kind of traveler who camps around. He stays in a tent, and in that kind of experience, or couch surfing, where he stays with locals. So I thought that if this is possible in Iran, I mean, it doesn't seem to be the kind of country, the way it is portrayed in media. So I thought, why not Iran? And one of the major aspects which I thought was that the hospitality which he experienced, the way it was shown in the vlogs, I thought the hospitality was incredible. And usually, I mean, that's my point of view. that I think whichever place you visit, the people around there are most important. That because that is it adds up to your experience. Of course, the place matters, but the people
Right.
also matter a lot. So that was my first. That is how I started.
Okay. And but why Iran? I mean, out of all the countries, like there's so many countries to go to, and which is easy to go. Then
Yeah, right.
why was Iran chosen by you to go?
As I said, one factor which was the hospitality which I saw in those vlogs, that was one major point. Apart
Hmm.
from that, I thought, why not explore a country which is not so explored and break break myths about that particular country. And Iran is it's very close to India. It's again, it's if you look at a backpacker's budget, I think it fits very well into the budget. Plus,
Hmm.
there is visa on arrival for Indians, which
Okay.
not a lot of people know. And a lot of people might have this concern that, okay, Iran, once you get a stamp on the passport and, the US might ban you, this, that. Possible, but they don't stamp your passport. So that was
Hmm.
another factor which I thought that if they're not going to stamp my passport, then why not, just go ahead with it. There's going to be no record about me going to Iran. So that was the
Okay.
multiple,
Okay.
like a lot of factors, I would say. Main
Right.
factor was hospitality, which I saw.
Okay. So, like you said, the Iran is a very hospitable and
Yeah.
hospitable country. So, any interesting stories from Iran which you can
Many
share?
stories, many stories actually. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
one story I would like to highlight is of when actually I have this habit of roaming around at night whenever I travel, and I was just roaming around, and this one particular experience, basically, I kept on wandering and I lost my way, and I did not have internet. I'll come to that story as well about the internet thing.
Mm.
Uh, and I
Okay.
was trying to find my way, and I was trying to interact with the locals, which was quite difficult because there's a language issue. Not everyone can understand and speak English. Of course, young people
Okay.
can, but not everyone can. So I approached a
Mm-hmm.
guy who seemed to be very young looking, so I thought he would be able to interact. He understood a little bit, but then
Mm.
even he couldn't figure out. Then I, told him the address of my hostel and everything. Then he was trying to explain me, okay, go this way, go that way, but he was not able to. So what he did was, he opened his office. He took a piece of
Mm.
paper and a pen. He drew a map for me, and
Okay.
such kind of experience where I mean, who would do that? I
Right.
mean, he would have left me right there. He was going home, and he
Yeah.
helped me out. He drew a map. He called my hostel also, that okay, this is the guy. Okay, so he helped me out. So this was one experience. Apart from that, in general, Iran. I could pass off as an Iranian, like feature wise, but if
Mm.
a proper, a foreigner were to visit over there, they would approach them, and whenever they got to know that I am a foreigner in Iran, a lot of
Mm.
people would, they would offer me tea. They would offer me food. Uh,
Okay.
that is the level of hospitality over there. And there's one more experience I would like to share. uh, so I was going to some place which was which was in the outskirts. So
Mm.
I asked, while I was finding my way, it was a tricky place to find actually. It was somewhere, it had up slope. There was some issue. And
Okay.
I asked this guy if you could guide me. And then he said, I'll guide you, but is it okay if I accompany you? I'll show you around. So I
Okay.
said, why not? And then he spent almost 1.5 hours with me, and he showed me the place. He clicked my photos and everything. And this photo clicking experience, I would say, I mean, wherever I would go to any any museum or any tourist attraction I visited, uh, when people spotted, I was having problem clicking my own photos, so I was to place my camera somewhere and then take a selfie. So they used to
Mm.
approach me, and they would ask me, okay, we can click your photos if you don't mind. So that level of hospitality.
Yeah, I mean, that's so nice of that guy to show you around, like
Yeah,
just a
yeah.
random stranger.
Yeah, exactly. I was waiting at the bus station, and a military guy came with a plate in his hand, and he was it was his. I mean, he was going to have his own lunch, and then he suddenly came and offered me his entire lunch. So this was like, yeah,
Oh, he like
yeah,
entire lunch just like that?
yeah. Please have something.
Oh, that's
Unknown guy.
nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so which all places you visited in Iran?
So I went to three cities, which is one is Tehran, the capital. I landed in Shiraz, and then I went to
Okay.
Isfahan, which is in the middle, and then Tehran is up north. So I visited three cities in total. I could have visited more, but due
Mm.
to certain restrictions that happened, I thought of restricting myself to these three cities because these were the major cities.
Okay, and
Yeah.
what kind of restrictions you're talking about?
So basically, this story which happened, what happened is I landed in Iran, and after roaming around for 2 3 days, I when I reached Isfahan, again one local guy was showing me around, and we were waiting at a bus stop, and suddenly there was this news that the government has tripled the petrol prices, and
Okay.
within an hour or two, protests broke out uh,
Mhm.
across the country. So due to these protests, the government announced an internet lockdown. So this was very
Okay.
unusual. Yeah, yeah. And I was actually talking to a friend on a call. I was on a WhatsApp call, and suddenly my internet dropped. And then I asked around, so everyone's internet had dropped. And then after an hour, they shut the Wi-Fi as well. So there was zero. Like there was no internet connection available throughout the entire trip.
That
So
sounds
that was
scary in this world. Without
it. So
internet, I mean,
yeah, it is kind of scary, but I thought, I mean, later on, I felt quite safe. I mean, nothing happened as such because, yeah,
so how did you navigate without the internet in place? How you
yeah,
managed your whole trip?
yeah. So that was the most. Initially, I found that task a little bit tough. But what
Mhm.
happened is when I was in Isfahan, on the next day, few travelers came from Tehran. So they told me,
Okay.
okay, if you want to go to Tehran, you can, they gave me the hostel address and everything. They gave me a paper map as well, how to reach over
Okay.
there. And
Okay.
that is how people were, traveling across. So when I went to Tehran, people who wanted to go to Isfahan, I told them, okay, there's this hostel available over here. I'll give you the address and everything, so you can, land up because booking was not possible. There was no internet, so you could
Right.
just land up. And bus bookings and all, though, I mean, you could just go to the bus stand and take a bus. There's no other option. No,
Yeah,
no
but
other
sounds
option.
like an old sort of traveling where we
Yes.
earlier when there not used to be internet and we can just go on Google and do things. This is like
Yes.
a old style of traveling where you're
Yes.
actually exploring. So what else did you do when this internet thing was not there? So what
Yeah.
experiments did you do
So,
to travel?
so basically, no experiments as such. Basically,
Mhm.
you had to use a paper map. There was no option. So other than
Mhm.
using a paper map, but one, I wouldn't say. I mean, considering all the circumstances, good or bad, I don't know what I would call that. But because there was no internet, as we have this habit of being on our phone and continuously using our social media and everything, so as internet was not available and interaction, social media, everything, you are cut off with the world, and you are in a situation where you are, with a lot of other backpackers. So instead of being
Mhm.
on your phone, people were interacting with each other. So I think that was the best part that happened to me in that particular trip. That a lot of interaction happened with the fellow travelers. That I do. I mean, of course, people do talk, but this was something unique. So everyone, they were exchanging their Instagram handles, IDs, and phone numbers and all that. So because it was not possible, though Instagram you can't follow directly on. So they were noting down.
Correct.
People were noting down. So such
Yeah.
kind of things, such experience.
Okay. So I was also reading about Iran, and Iran is mostly like a cash economy, right? I mean, you
Yeah,
use
yeah,
mostly
yeah,
cash
yeah,
over there.
yeah, yeah.
So how does that work? Because I mean, like we use
Right,
GPay
right,
and everything
right,
right now, or maybe net banking and everything. So how
right,
does this cash
right.
economy work, especially when you're traveling for so long in a country?
Yeah, right. So this is also a very tough task actually. So you have to carry cash because so for Iran, the banking system in Iran is not connected with the outside world. So there is no way that you can use a credit card or a debit card. So you have to carry cash. So that is one. I mean, that is the most feasible way that you carry everything in cash. It's risky because you will be carrying loads of cash and traveling around with cash. But there is one more way that uh, the Iranian government has banned all the websites which are from UK, US, and everything. But there are a lot of travel agencies who work outside, who have offices outside of Iran. For example, UK. So what I can do is I can transfer money to them via my credit card, and then their guy who's sitting in Iran will give me a pre-filled credit card kind of thing where I can use it to swipe. But this was not possible in my case because no internet. I can't transfer money. Nothing at all.
Again, again the same problem.
Yeah, there are a lot of things which I realize, which, when you're traveling, forget traveling, even under normal circumstances, when there's no internet, these are small issues which we face.
Yeah, right. So, but I think if you leave the internet lockdown thing, then this idea could be worked out, like having
Yeah,
a something with the travel agent and then getting that done. So it's like a credit card or debit
yeah,
card sort of, right?
it's
Which you
yeah
can swipe
pre-filled.
around.
Yeah, right. So you can use it to withdraw cash. You can use it to that is their internal. I mean, the way we have Visa, Mastercard over here, so they have their
Yeah.
own. They don't have Visa, Mastercard, so it's not at all possible to use your credit card.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So like you said, you stayed in hostels over there and sort of did a backpacking. So how easy or difficult it is to backpack or solo travel in Iran?
So most of the solo travelers I met in Iran, where were mostly adults in the range of 25 to 30. Uh,
Okay.
from backpacking point of view, I would say that it is very easy to navigate across Iran. There's no problem at all. You have hostels available in all the major cities. Wherever there are tourist attractions, you can go and stay in hostels. And even if you can't stay in hostels, if you use couch surfing, Iranians are very friendly people. The problem is I was having this internet issue. Otherwise, a lot of people had sent me couch surfing requests,
Okay.
before I landed in Iran, but I couldn't connect to them. There was some issue, so that is one of the problem. But otherwise, it is very backpacker friendly. There was one instance, basically, this I met this guy who came from Ireland, and he was cycling across Iran, and he was camping.
Okay.
So I'm
Okay.
sure they have those camping places as well. And
Hmm.
apart from that, I met an Iranian couple who were backpacking. So they told me that this is just one of days where they want to rest, so they chose to stay in the hostel. But otherwise, they were also backpacking across Iran. So Iran as a destination for backpacking, it's very easy. It's not at all difficult. Of course,
Okay.
this is a one-off event that can happen. When the internet can go down or a protest can go down. We can't predict such kind of events, of course.
Right.
But
Right.
otherwise, it's a very friendly country. As I said, people are also very nice, so you won't face that issue as well. While backpacking,
Okay.
you just as a if a foreigner stands in the middle of the road with a map, confused people, 10 people will go to him and ask him if he needs any help. So it's a very easy country to travel.
That's amazing. But like you said, camping culture they have in Iran. So is it safe? Because the very important thing, especially when you talk about country like Iran, what people think is it safe or not to go?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
how is the safety aspect of the country?
So, talk about the safety aspect. It is, I mean, the time when I went, all those instances, whatever incidents occurred, that's a different. If we keep those aside, and under normal circumstances, I am sure it is a very, very safe country to travel. In fact, I met a 40-year-old woman uh,
Hmm.
who was so when I landed in Shiraz on the same day, I met this woman in one of my hostels where I was staying. She was going to take a bus to Kurdistan, Iranian part of Kurdistan, all alone. And when I asked her that, would I have you done any bookings or anything? So she said, no, I haven't booked anything. I'm just going to land up over there and ask people if I can stay in their homes. So that is when I actually got that confidence that it's not that, uh, uh, unsafe or anything the way people talk about in the media talks about. So
Yeah.
it's a very safe. If a solo backpacker, a solo female backpacker can travel, then I'm sure it's definitely a very, very safe country. Of course, there could be few pockets to avoid, which we will come to know only when we land up there. But
Right.
otherwise, to take a female traveler can take a bus, can take a cab, and I'm sure it's very, very safe, very, very safe. And I saw a lot of military over there. This is very unusual. This might make you feel that it's not very common in a country like India
Yeah.
that you'll see a lot of military advertisements in metros as well. You'll see
Okay.
advertisements of, yes, yes, and a lot of huge holdings of militaries. So, and people, it's very normal for a policeman carrying gun, not a policeman but military guy carrying gun across checkposts and all. It's very common
Okay.
scenario. You can find it
I mean, you
in
can
Iran.
see military people on the roads very easily.
Yes, in fact, once I was going back to my hostel late at night, and I saw two policemen or army guys. I don't know who exactly they were, and they were with huge, big AK-47s in their hand, and I was alone
Okay.
walking on. But nothing, of course. They said in fact, they greeted me very well. So there's
Okay. Were you
nothing to
scared
worry about. I was
looking at
scared.
them?
I was scared. In one particular instance, so I was just taking a walk with one of my hostel mates, and we reached a square. And this was just when the protest had started. And we didn't see anything, so we kept on walking. And we reached a square where a lot of protesters and the police was fully loaded. So that's when I felt that it's a kind of a scary situation. But I mean, that is normal for them, I would say.
Okay, okay. So you were there in Iran for 14 days, if
Yes.
I'm right.
Yes, right,
So
right.
how much did you spend on this trip? I mean, just want to understand how
Yeah.
feasible is the country in terms of expenses.
Expenses, it's a very cheap country to travel to. That was one of the reasons why I chose Iran.
Hmm.
Apart from, see, flight expenses, one has to figure out on its own. But if you're taking a flight, so I took a flight from Mumbai to Shiraz, and Shiraz is not a very popular destination where tourists land up. Tourists would usually land up in Tehran. So that was coming out very cheap for me. There was a big layover in Dubai, and it costed
Okay.
me around somewhere around 16 to 19,000. I can't recall exactly, but around
Okay.
18, 19,000. uh, Apart from that, visa is very expensive for Iran, and that is I mean, I didn't like that part actually. It
Okay.
costed me around 9,000, and I think for a country like Iran, they should keep it. It was £100 or £90, something like that. So that
Okay.
is
But
that was,
did you take visa on arrival? Like you said, it's visa on arrival for Indians. So
yeah.
did you
So
take that option?
basically, yeah. So coming to that. Basically, you can take visa on arrival, but you can take an e-visa also. So the problem with e-visa is you apply on the government website, but usually it gets rejected. So my e-visa got rejected 4 times, and you have to go through an agency. You have to go through an agency. I don't know what is the reason, what is their problem, but you have to go through an agency.
Okay.
So that was the thing. But yeah, I mean, I got my e-visa, and another story attached with this visa thing as well. I stopped at Mumbai airport, and the immigration officer took me to his senior, and he was telling him about me that this guy is traveling alone in Iran. It's not a work visa. He doesn't have. He has this e-visa. I mean, so that. But finally, of course, I was allowed, and
So the immigration guy was kind of scared for you, like while
yeah.
you were in Iran.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So that was the thing. And even in Iran, as they don't stamp, just for the info, for the people listening, so they don't stamp your passport. What they do is when you enter Iran, they will basically keep your record with your they'll enter your details, and they'll keep a record. So when you leave the country, they will cross check against it whether you entered legally or not, because there's no other way to find out if,
Okay.
whether you have kind of come in this country legally, because there's no stamp on the passport, right?
Right,
And
right.
this one incident which happened when I landed, that somehow I skipped through the queue and went outside, and they
Okay.
forgot to enter my details. And I was just about to take a cab, and the immigration officer came running behind me, and he stopped me and asked me if I've entered my details, and then they got my details entered in that portal. Otherwise, it could have been an issue. Probably could definitely been an issue when while
Okay.
going while going.
Like you
Yeah,
would have been considered an illegal
yeah,
person
yeah,
inside the country.
yeah, yeah. Maybe I
Okay.
don't know what would have happened, but for sure it would have been a problem. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and coming to your question, so traveling so it's quite cheap, as you can stay in hostels. So stay and food. Food is very cheap. I'm not a foodie as such, but I mean, even if you were to eat, I mean, normal kebabs or whatever you want, normal go for a lunch or a dinner, it won't cost you more than 150 to 200 bucks in Indian currency. It would
Okay.
cost you much less if you be a little more thrifty, I would say, as a
Mhm.
backpacker. So it won't cost you much. Food is very, very, very cheap in Iran. A falafel would cost me a huge, big falafel. Sometimes it was my dinner also, and it used to cost me around 40 bucks in Indian currency, 40 to 50 bucks.
That's pretty cheap.
Very cheap, very cheap. Kebabs would cost me around 100 bucks, and I'm not talking about quick a normal fast food thing. Huge. I mean, the quantity was huge. Even for 100 bucks, the kebab I would eat it. I could probably eat it twice. So
Okay.
yeah, it's quite cheap. And hostels are very cheap in Iran. It comes to around on an average it comes to around $5 to $7 in a common dorm. And even if you were to stay in a hotel, I'm sure it would cost you not more than $15 to $20. In fact,
Okay.
in one of the hostels I stayed, I got a private room for $7. So it comes
Okay.
to around 500, 600 rupees. It's very cheap.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how is the transportation like? I mean, no, I'm sure you travel by buses or public
Yeah,
transport
yeah,
mostly.
public
So
transport.
how are that in terms of expenses?
So the intercity buses are quite amazing, I would say. For the again coming to if we compare to the price and the service which I experienced. So I had I had to take a bus from Shiraz to Isfahan. That was around 300 bucks in Indian currency, 300 350 somewhere around. And the
Okay.
bus had a small TV attached to the seat, my front seat, and they provided me with breakfast as well. And
Okay.
yeah, so it's very convenient. It's very convenient. And if I have to talk about intra-city, all the major cities have metros, very well connected metros. In fact, when I was in Tehran, I never took a cab because it was so well connected. You have this one card, which you can use it for the bus as well as the metro. So it
Okay.
was very convenient, and that is why I believe that it makes a it's an attractive destination for backpackers. It's very good
Right, right.
connectivity. Yeah, and there is one trans-Iranian some railways also. Uh, I'm not sure about it, but there is a railway line as well, or you can take a flight. So just one thing, the flight. So basically, airplanes in Iran are very old, and
Very old. Okay.
yeah, very old carriers.
Okay.
So it's kind of risky. That's what I had heard, that avoid taking.
Okay. That's why you took all the buses
Yes, I
and
was going
trains.
to take a yeah. I was going to take a flight, but I thought it's better to avoid.
Okay, okay. And how is attraction charges, like, the ticket charges for visiting attractions? Are they like cheap, expensive? How is that?
They are not very expensive, but I would say not very cheap also. So they have, I mean, sometimes in some places where I went to this one in Shiraz, a tomb of Hafez, very famous poet. So I thought, I mean, it was just placed in a garden, and they were charging me 300 rupees for it, 300, 400 something. The museums and all, it's not a museum. There's one very famous tourist attraction in Tehran. I forgot the name of that palace. So to see that entire palace, it will cost you more than 13 1500 something like that, as a foreigner. So I
Okay.
mean, it's comparable. I wouldn't say that it's not reasonable as such, but it's not cheap also, I would say. Whereas in India,
Okay.
I think it's very cheap. Tourist attractions
I
are
think
quite cheap.
again that depends if you are a foreigner or an Indian,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
at a lot
yeah,
of
yeah. That's
places for
true.
foreigner it's quite expensive.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah. So
So
the whole of trip, how much, like an approximate number, how much money you spent on the whole trip of 14 days?
I think it costed me, if the flight and visa itself came to around 30,000. So add 35,000 more to it, 55 to 60, I would say, because the stay and food, that is one of the, I think stay is a very major expense. So that was very cheap for me. And
Hmm.
apart from that, food, as I said, it's very cheap, so it did not cost me much when once I landed in Iran,
Okay,
apart
okay.
from flight and visa. Yes.
I think 55, 60 is a very good amount of money to go to a
Yeah, yeah,
country. You
definitely.
travel anywhere in India also, and if you're going for a 15-day trip or so, I
Yeah,
mean, you end up, spending this amount if you
yeah,
go
yeah,
like
sure,
that.
definitely,
So
definitely.
considering Iran, it seems like very cheap.
Yeah, and by the way, I was staying in cities. It's not like in India when you go to Himachal, it's quite cheap compared to
Yeah,
if I go from Mumbai to Delhi. Delhi would be expensive, right? Stay
right,
and all would be expensive. But I was staying here in cities and still it was quite cheap. So just wanted to highlight that point.
yeah. Okay, so I know that you went in 2019 in Iran,
Yeah.
like just before
Right.
the pandemic happened, end of
Right before.
2019.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And then you utilized your lockdown time to actually write a book on your travels of Iran.
Right.
So tell
Right.
us about that. How did that happen, and what inspired you to do that?
Yeah. So I have been writing for quite a while, and went to Iran in November 2019, and lockdown happened in March 2020. So suddenly there was some free time in hand in the evenings. Commuting it actually takes up a lot of time when you're working, and as I was saving a lot of commuting time, I thought that why not, while it is still fresh in my mind, it had just happened 4 months, 4 to 5 months back. Why not share my experiences with people as well? So I just thought I also felt like a moral responsibility that I should be telling people about this particular place, and the kind of impression which people have. Because when I was going to Iran, there was, I mean, all of my friends were like, why do you have to go to Iran? I mean, such a dangerous country. US has put it on whatever do not travel list and everything. So why would you do that? So I just thought that this would actually break a lot of myths, you know. As and the most important thing is the incredible hospitality that I experienced, and I mean that was amazing. I mean, as a traveler, what else do you want? People coming and helping you out all the time, and there were a lot of such instances which I thought I should be sharing it with people. Apart, of course, when I was writing, it was more about experiences, but I've put in more info also. And of course, this internet lockdown, I thought this was a very interesting plot twist for my story.
Right.
So all these things put together, I thought I should, you know, uh, pen it down. So
That's
I've written
amazing, and
yeah,
I'm sure people would get the whole glimpse of what you actually experienced in Iran through your book and through your stories.
right, 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 right.
This
So
also reminds me of, I remember I had read somewhere that people are so hospitable that they have this, one of the things where you deny taking money, something like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah,
Would you
yeah,
like to
yeah.
tell us about that?
Yeah, so I missed that point. As I should have told you. So they
Yeah.
have this system called taruf in
Oh,
Iran, uh, where so whenever a foreigner goes to a country, usually they don't take money. Even a cab driver, of course, he takes money sometimes, but sometimes they refuse. Restaurant, they will not take money when they'll come to know that you are a foreigner in this country, and they sometimes genuinely don't want to take money from you. So there's a system where, if I am giving money to the waiter, then he should, or whatever, the cabbie or whoever, then that guy should reject it at least 4 to 5 times, you know
okay.
then it is like he really doesn't want to take money from me. And if he
Okay.
rejects it once, I should offer him, twice or thrice. It's not that if he says no for the first time, I will keep it in my pocket. It doesn't work like that. So you have to keep on
Okay.
offering. I had read about this before landing up in Iran. Otherwise, I would have saved a lot of money.
Definitely.
So that is
Okay.
how this system works. So you have to keep on offering. But a lot of people genuinely don't want to take money, and this happened with me a couple of times.
Okay. So going back to your book, sorry I interrupted with the
Yeah, yeah, no, no,
hospitality
no
point.
problem.
Yeah, so going back to your book, where people can buy your book and how is
Yeah,
it easily available? What is
yeah,
it?
yeah. So it's an ebook. It's a small 60-page ebook. It's available on Amazon across all the countries. It's available on Amazon. You can check. I've kept the link in my bio, so on my
Okay.
profile. So if someone wants to check it out, they can, see it. It's a small 60-page book where I have broken down my experience into chapters, each day into chapters, what all things I did and all the
Okay.
experiences. It's written in a story format where I have even written conversations with few people where I remembered what exactly happened.
Okay. Okay. I'm sure people would love to check out your book also and know more about Iran.
Yeah, that would
And
be great.
yeah, yeah. So this brings us to the end of the talk, Vaibhav, and it was amazing having you. Thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
on Daastan-E-Raahi. It was such a
Thank you.
pleasure.
Thank you for this podcast, and it was great to speak about Iran, to relive my experiences of Iran. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for that.
And thank you for breaking those stereotypes about the
Yeah,
country, which I think a
yeah,
lot of people have about.
for
Okay.
sure, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much for joining, and we'll be back again with another wonderful traveler. Till then, take care, stay safe.